You know those stories you've heard a million times? The ones you think you know inside and out? Well, today we're taking one of the most famous stories ever told, and we're going to look at it through the eyes of someone who saw something else entirely. A hidden code, a mystical message tucked away in every single detail.
What if I told you that a simple foot race between two friends wasn't just about who was faster? What if it was actually a prophecy for the entire world? Yeah, sounds wild, right? Okay, let's dive into this.
All right, so our story comes from the Gospel of John. It's Easter morning. The tomb where Jesus was laid is empty, and two of his disciples, Peter and John, they just take off running to see it for themselves. I mean, you can just feel the drama, the urgency of that moment. But the text doesn't just say they ran to the tomb. No, it gives us some very specific and honestly kind of strange details. The writer is incredibly precise here. John, who's younger, outruns Peter, but then he just stops at the entrance. He looks in, but he doesn't go inside. Then Peter gets there, and he just barrels right in. And inside, the burial cloths aren't just tossed aside. The linen strips are in one spot, and the napkin that had been on Jesus' head is neatly folded, all by itself, in another place. Why? I mean, why would the author bother to include these tiny, seemingly random details?
This is where we bring in an early medieval theologian named Gregory. For him, nothing in this story was an accident. He believed all these little details were actually a symbolic language, a kind of mystical key to unlocking a much, much deeper truth about faith, about history, and about God himself.
So, let's start breaking this code, shall we? We'll start with the two runners. Because for Gregory, this isn't just about two guys named Peter and John. Nope. They represent two massive historical movements. Okay, so this slide really lays out Gregory's core idea. He saw John as a symbol for the synagogue, for the Jewish tradition. It came first in history, right? It had the prophecies, it knew the commandments, but in Gregory's interpretation, it got right to the edge of the truth but then hesitated to fully go in and believe. Peter, on the other hand, he represents the Gentile or non-Jewish church. It came to the party later in history, but it didn't hesitate for a second. It went right into that tomb and fully embraced the faith.
And Gregory's own words just put it so powerfully. That simple act of getting there first but not going in becomes this huge symbol for knowing all the facts, having all the background info, but still not making that final leap of faith.
So here's the crucial part. Peter just bursting into that tomb symbolizes this newer community that, even though it was second on the scene historically, fully accepted and believed in the resurrection without wavering. That whole foot race suddenly becomes this giant metaphor for how belief spread throughout history.
Okay, but what about those cloths? And specifically, that folded napkin, set apart from everything else. If the race was a symbol, you can bet that napkin was too. And for Gregory, the single object was so packed with meaning that he actually saw two totally different symbolic messages in it.
It's amazing, really. Gregory takes this one clue, the napkin, and pulls out two completely different layered interpretations from it. The first one is about the very nature of God, and the second is all about the nature of suffering.
So, first, just think about where it was. It was around Christ's head, and it's found separate from the body cloths. Gregory says this is a symbol for the divine itself. The head of Christ is God, right? So the napkin being separate shows us that the mysteries of God are far, far removed from our simple human understanding. It's a symbol of divine transcendence, that which is beyond us.
But then, Gregory looks at what a napkin is actually for. It's for wiping away sweat when you're working hard, right? So he says the napkin also represents suffering and labor. But, and this is key, Christ's suffering was separate and different from ours, just like the napkin was separate from the other cloths. He suffered innocently, voluntarily. We, on the other hand, suffered justly and out of necessity. It's this powerful symbol of a totally unique kind of sacrifice.
So we've got symbolic runners and a multi-layered, symbolic napkin. This is pretty cool, but what's the big picture here? What is this whole method of interpretation all about? Well, this deep dive into symbolism has a name, and it's actually a cornerstone of theological and literary study. The practice is called exegesis, and really, it's the art and science of digging into a text to pull out its deeper meaning. It's all about moving past the surface-level story to figure out what the author might have been trying to say through symbols, through structure, through every single word choice. See, Gregory wasn't just making up a creative story. He was engaging in a formal practice of exegesis. He treated the text like it was a sacred puzzle where every single piece, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, was absolutely essential to revealing the full picture.
It's the belief that there are no wasted words.
And to bring his whole interpretation full circle, Gregory points out that after Peter goes in, the story says John also finally enters the tomb. For Gregory, this was the final piece of the puzzle, the last part of the prophecy, a vision of a future where, at the very end of time, both communities, the synagogue and the church, would be united together in belief.
This whole thing just goes to show you that a story can be so much more than what it looks like on the surface. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? The next time you reread a favorite book, or rewatch a movie, or even hear an old family story, what happens if you just look a little closer? What are the puzzling details, the folded napkins, that might just unlock a whole new level of meaning?